G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories including past experiences and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome back to another episode. On today's episode, we are joined by Spearo and hunters Dave Scholefield and daughter Dakoyta. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having us, Zach.
Not a problem.
Hi.
So we'll get straight into it. Where are you guys from?
We're on the Fleurieu Peninsula. We live at Mount Compass.
Yep. Nice. Beautiful area. Good bakery.
Yeah, there's a few good bakeries there. No, it is a nice small town, good country feel, and
Yep.
we love it up there. We're on a small acreage, and wouldn't want to live anywhere else, to be honest with you.
It's a beautiful spot, that's for sure. How old are you guys?
I'm 36.
36? Yeah, wow. You don't look it, man.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
It's all that ocean water. And what about you, Dakoyta?
I'm 12.
12? Nice. So what do you do for work, Dave?
So I'm a commercial diver.
Yep.
I do a little bit of commercial construction diving, a little bit of marine construction with a local marine construction company in Adelaide, but my mainstay is commercial diving. I'm a commercial abalone diver, both in Victoria and South, and on work deck on an abalone boat in South Australia as well.
Yeah, wow. So has that a pretty risky job or pretty?
Yeah, it gets viewed as a risky job, and I guess it is. There's plenty of stuff that can go wrong. Fortunately, in this day and age, if you do follow the right protocols and there's a lot of cowboys out there that probably take more risks on than need to be done. I'm with my commercial diving training background. I'm probably a little bit more wary and aware of the risks than some people. So hopefully that holds me in good stead to at least control the controllables, basically.
Yep. No, that's good. And
can't control things like sharks and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you definitely can't.
That's just part of the territory.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it. I've just got that. I've gone spearfishing a couple times, and I've just got that picture. Every shadow that goes overhead, a cloud goes behind the sun.
Yeah, you definitely have your good days and your bad days. Some days it's just like any office job, I guess. Some days you just love being in the water, and other days if it's a bit dirty, a bit rough, lots of seals around, or you're diving a sketchy spot. Yeah, you're constantly looking over your shoulder. It's in the back of your mind the whole day. And
suppose the most dangerous part of it would be going to and fro.
Yeah,
driving and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's more the risks like gear malfunction and all that sort of stuff is probably more on the forefront of my mind rather than any marine animals.
Yeah.
But luckily I'm still here and hopefully can enjoy a long career out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And Dakoyta, you're at school?
Yeah.
Yep. What year are you in?
Year 7.
Year 7? Nice. So that's first year of high school then? Yep. Awesome. So Dave, how did you get into hunting and spearfishing in the outdoors, man?
Sort of the spearfishing probably came first and foremost. I don't have any hunting background in my family, but my granddad and my dad were both into spearfishing and fishing. So the fishing and that came first and foremost. Used to go away a lot to York Peninsula as a family fishing, and I was just always obsessed from a young age with my dad's spear guns and all that sort of stuff. So it was just a bit of a natural progression from fishing that I took up spearfishing, just loved it. And
so your dad was right into spearfishing or just fishing?
He was more so into fishing.
Yeah.
He dabbled in spearfishing. My granddad, my mum's dad, did more spearfishing. He lived over in Western Australia for a long time. Where spearfishing got done a bit more back then. I started spearfishing probably when I was about 12.
Yeah.
And started getting seriously into it around 20.
Yeah.
That's when I sort of joined a club and started actually mingling with people that actually knew what they were doing and started learning the right way of doing it, and went from there.
Yeah, awesome.
And hunting was the more you hang out with fishers and spearfishers and divers, generally they're also into hunting and they're into the same sort of scene.
Exactly.
So, the more people I met through the spearfishing, I gradually started going, hunting seems cool, might get into that too, and yeah. Yeah,
it's crazy how much it just coexists with each other, and the amount of mutual friends we had, and I didn't even know who you were until 2 months ago.
And it's like that Australia wide. It's just amazing. You go and catch up with people at dive comps, and they're like, after the comp we're going out for a deer hunt or whatever. You want to come along? Like if you're in the spearfishing hunting scene, your chances are there's a very short degree of separation between people that you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So, give us a brief run through your spearfishing setup. Just your gun, your dive gear, and then your hunting setup. What rifle you run, and
so with my spearfishing, generally in South Australia, I'll use a 90 centimetre pranger gun. Single 16mm rubber. Pretty basic sort of setups. It's a lot of small bread and butter species here in SA. Your whiting, flathead, salmon, squid, snook, all that sort of stuff. So your 90 centimetre pranger gun is your perfect sort of setup that I find for South Australia. 5mm wetsuit, pretty good for year round diving here. Can be a little bit warm in summer, a little bit cold in winter, but
if I can imagine.
If you only have one suit, 5mm is probably the way to go down here. Just nothing really. I don't really run anything particularly out of the ordinary. You always just make sure I take a float. Good pair of fins if you can afford carbon fibre. I love a good pair of carbon fibre fins. They're the things that propel you all day. So I would recommend spending money on as good as you can afford in the fins department. And mask and snorkel. I use a Technisub, an Aqualung Technisub mask with an Omer Zoom snorkel. They're the same mask and snorkel I've used for 15 years and just love them. I've tried many different types and sizes and shapes. And
so it's kind of one of those things, you find a brand and you stick to it.
Yeah, always go back. And the good thing about them is, the people I take out, because I buy bulk in them. So the people I take out, it's hard to often get a mask and snorkel that will be comfortable for many different shape sizes and all that, face sizes and shapes and all that sort of stuff. So whereas this mask and snorkel, I give it to Dakoyta, it fits her. I give it to my partner, it fits her. I give it to, it doesn't really matter what your face is like. It just fits. So I'd highly recommend checking those masks and snorkel combos out. Yeah.
It's one of those things, you just get down the rabbit holes,
100%, yeah. It's you walk into a dive shop and it's just like, wow, where do I even start here? And you go around and try every single one on, but yeah.
That's one reason I've stayed away from spearfishing, just because I know that if I get into it, I'll get into it. And between hunting and fishing and camping and then family, I just don't have the time.
Look, you're around this room, mate. I reckon you got enough going on.
So what about rifle setup and that, your hunting setup? What do you use for, medium, large game?
Yep. So 270 would be my go-to for goats, fallow deer.
Yeah.
Anything that requires a little bit more, I'll pick up the 270 every time. I trust it. I love it. It's a ticker.
It's a great rifle. I've got a 270 and a Rem 700. So
yeah.
Great. Yep. Great rifle.
Yeah, I have shot Rem 700s and they're nice guns. Yeah.
What tikka?
It's a tikka. Crikey, it was a while ago that I bought it. It's a synthetic stainless, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, beautiful light gun. Are you running anything special in the bino department or backpack?
As far as binos, I did a reasonable amount of research. I ended up getting I might have to come back to that. it's left my mind now what brand of binos I'm using. I'll come back to it because I will think of it. But I would highly recommend them. I tried a heap and wasn't real happy with any of them, and then read a few online reviews of these ones and picked them up. And
mid-range market, top of the market.
Yeah, they're about 450. Yep. So they weren't
maybe Vortex.
No, they weren't one of the common ones. They were recommended by a bird watching crew.
Yeah, well.
So. Yep, I can't.
It's all
think
good.
of the brand off the top of my head. I should have been more prepared for that question. But
it's all good. And what about Dakoyta? What do you use when you're out spearfishing with Dad? And
well, I've only ever used Dad's gun, and I don't have a clue what gun that is.
That's pretty lucky.
And then I just use a spear gun, like a pranger one.
Yeah.
I think it's a 90 centimeter too, but it has the 2 strings, which is easier to pull for a kid to get it loaded.
Awesome.
We found that with a 16mm rubber with Dakoyta, she couldn't load it. So when it was time for her to get her own gun, we spoke to Paul from Torelli, and he hooked her up with a bit of a custom gun, basically with slightly longer 14mm rubbers instead of 16mm rubbers, and it basically shoots exactly the same as my gun, but super easy to load for Dakoyta with a smaller arms. Yeah.
Awesome. So normally I'd turn this into like a top beginner tip. What would be a tip for being a parent, getting your kids involved and your family involved? What would you recommend?
That's a really good question, and it's for both hunting and spearfishing. I would probably put them in a similar sort of realm. As far as initially when they're really young, just don't overcomplicate it. Make sure they have fun.
Yeah.
Just keep it really simple. As soon as they're a bit ratty or not enjoying it anymore, just call it a day. Don't be selfish about it. It's really easy as a hunter to get your froth on and go, I know if we just walk over that next gully, we'll see something and it'll be really cool, but probably really cool more so for you than what it would be for them. Like if they're over it, they're over it.
100%.
Don't push the point. Just make sure they're having fun. Like when I first started getting Dakoyta into spearfishing, for example, obviously I didn't throw her in the water the first time with a spear gun and go for it. Take her out in really good conditions, crystal clear. Take them somewhere where there's lots of fish, like the bottom of Port Noarlunga Jetty under the stairs there. There's plenty of sea sweep and little trevally and lots of reef fish there. Go there in good conditions. Just put a mask and snorkel on and look at the fish, and then take it from there. And if you go to the pool, put a mask and get them used to putting the mask and snorkel
and breathing
on
through it
because it is something that actually doesn't come that naturally to a lot of people.
No, I look pretty much like a beach whale.
yeah. and a lot of people, just can't get their head around having their mouth underwater and breathing, and it's interesting. So yeah, for kids, just get them snorkeling, take it slow. In the first instance in the ocean, take them somewhere fishy, clear, in good conditions.
Yeah.
And they'll love it. And don't push the point. Just let them take it at their own pace, and that's what we've done with Dakoyta, and it's been really rewarding seeing her journey.
So how old was Dakoyta when you started taking her out?
Hunting wise, like just going out whistling for foxes and going for walks and stuff like that, she was probably about 5 or 6, I would say. And spearfishing probably a couple of years after that. She was probably 7 or 8, by the time she was first I think she shot her first fish when she was 8.
That's awesome.
So, she was snorkeling and for a couple of years before that.
So Dakoyta, do you actually remember going out and spearing your first fish being so young?
Yes, I do actually remember, but I can't remember my actual fish because what happened was we were swimming out in the water and there was like this big reef section and I was holding my spear gun out, but Dad was right behind me and holding onto the gun with me, and Dad was going to tell me when to shoot. And then so I was aiming my gun out, like just pointing it in some random direction. And then Dad was like, oh, shoot your gun. And I was like, why? There's no fish. And then he's just like, shoot it. And then I shot my gun, and then there was a fish on the end, but it was so camouflaged in with the seaweed that I couldn't see it until I'd shot it.
That's awesome. No, that's a good first story. Remembering back to it.
Yeah, one of those moments where you can see everything going on, and they can't quite work out what's happening. But yeah,
no, I've had the same thing out hunting. I'm like, there it is over there, and it's like, where? I can't see it.
Yeah. No, it was good.
A proud dad moment for sure.
Yeah, she did go on to see a fish herself, and shoot a second fish that she actually saw as well that day. So.
So, what would your top beginner tips be?
I'll let Dakoyta answer this, and then I'll expand from there.
No worries.
My top beginner tip for hunting would to always be quiet, because I get told off a lot for talking in the middle when there's goats up on the hill or deer close.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been that kid. I remember going out with my pop, 5, 6 to 8, walking along and see a mob of goats. Pop, there's a mob of goats there. Next minute, goats are all gone.
And then my one for spearfishing would be to never chase the fish, because I tend to sometimes chase the fish and then I just lose it and I get really sad. But then Mum's like, you chased the fish, and I was like, I know, but I just wanted to get it. But it just still doesn't work.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty classic beginner tips there, and something that nearly everyone does. It doesn't matter whether you're a kid or an adult. When you first go spearfishing, you will nearly always chase the fish. And
yeah, I reckon I did the same. The only time I've been out, I was just lucky enough. I come across a stupid enough flathead that just stayed laying there and allowed me to spear it.
Yeah. Fish are inherently curious, so usually if you, I think Liam said it on your podcast recently. Usually if you're calm and patient and hit the bottom and stay in one spot, lay there, the fish will come to you.
Yeah.
There's no need to be chasing them. It's pretty threatening for a fish having a 6-foot dude bearing down on them with a spear gun outstretched. So
yeah, watching the meat eater spearing episodes recently with Kimmy Warner, just watching them flick up the sand and that to get the fish's interest, and just the glistening off the sand makes them come in, and that was pretty cool. I didn't really think of that.
And 100% a tactic that we use quite often here. Lay on the sand, throw sand up, scratch rocks together, stuff like that. Like, you're on a little bit of reef, pick up a pebble and scratch the rock and watch the fish react to it. Like, they straight away will turn and go, oh, well, what's going on over there? I'll go and have a look. So yeah, it's pretty interesting little tactics. What else was there? What was the question again? Beginner tips?
Yeah, just beginner tips to get into.
Yeah. Hunting wise, I guess wind is always a pretty big one that probably is underestimated in the first instance. Always keep the wind in your favour. And interestingly, in spearfishing, keeping the sun in your favour can be something as well, depending on the direction of your sun and the way you can approach the fish.
So do you want the sun behind you or in front of you, or?
That's a really tricky question to answer, and it depends on so many variables, and it's something that I wouldn't be able to say definitively one way or the other, because it would depend on variables. The best thing you can do, I think, for either sport is time in the water or time in the bush. The best training you can do for spearfishing is spearfishing, and I think probably the best training you can do for hunting is hunting.
Exactly.
So yeah, often people are like, oh, I need to increase my breath hold, or what sort of training can I do at home, and so on and so forth. And while all that stuff's helpful, absolutely nothing beats just going out there and doing it, spending time in the water.
Exactly.
That's what fast tracked it for me. I went out. I had a really keen mate when I was in my early 20s, and we would just be out 3-4 times a week, sometimes before work, after work, like
That's wicked.
2 times on the weekend, and just lived it for 5, 6, 7 years. I forget how long it was now, but
I was exactly the same with hunting, and if I wasn't hunting, I was fishing with rod and reel.
Yeah. So that would be my top tip. Time doing it.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about Golf Skindivers.
Yeah, Golf Skindivers. I started it in 2018.
Yeah.
It was originally there was a small club in South Australia called Freedive Extreme. When I first got into it, I think they formed around 2005. There was many clubs back in the 80s and 90s, but they sort of dissolved towards the late 90s, and then Freedive Extreme started around the mid 2000s. Ran a fairly small, close knit club for about 7 or 8 years. And I was involved in that, and that was where I met a lot of the people that I'm still really good mates with today. So I got to experience the benefit of a club scene, even though it was very small. And it went quiet on the scene for about 5 years, and there was murmurs of that SA needed a club, but I didn't want to half-ass it either. I wanted to make sure if I was going to do it and invest my time into it, and I wanted to do it properly and make sure it actually worked. So I basically just bided my time until the time was right, and in 2018 I figured that I had the time and the scene was ready for it, and we started Golf Skindivers, and it's just boomed ever since. It's been a really rewarding journey for myself and for my whole family, really.
That's awesome.
Watching the club grow and the culture that we're trying to promote by being ethical hunters or ethical spearfishers. That was sort of paramount to me starting the club, was that it needed to be done in the right way and needed to promote the right sort of culture.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud to be able to say that I think we've done that. And
I've been seeing a few articles of late. Just before I had Liam on, the two metro spots opened up, and I screenshotted that and sent that. I'm like, oh, do you want to talk about this? He's like, yeah, that's Dave. He's a top bloke. He's been doing lots of work towards that, and
So it's been a hugely rewarding experience, and we've through the club and the support of the people within the club, we've really managed in the last few years to be able to legitimise spearfishing. We're recognised on government councils.
That's
and
awesome.
We're being invited to recreational fishing events and stuff like that now. Whereas when that never really used to happen in the past, it was sort of a bit of an outcast sort of activity if you're on the dark side, if you went spearfishing. But through a bit of education and stuff like that, we've been able to really legitimise it.
And that's what it seems to take. Even with like fishing in South Australia, it's coming a long way. There's lots of people behind the scenes doing lots of great things and pushing for the right things that we need.
Definitely.
There's a few people behind the scenes trying to push for fishing licenses to improve. And
Definitely.
what are your thoughts on fishing licenses for, say, like spearfishing, as well as normal recreational?
I'm a big believer that spearfishing should be just classed as another form of recreational fishing. I don't think there should be licenses.
I definitely don't think there should be a separate.
Yeah.
I think it should all be included. If you have a fishing license, you fish rod and reel, fish.
Yeah, personally, I'm not against a fishing license. I think, I do a lot of fishing interstate in Victoria. I obviously work in Victoria, and I do a lot of recreational fishing every year in New South Wales as well. And they're both states with recreational fishing licenses, and I do see the benefits that neither of those states have a perfect model either. There is flaws in their systems, but I do see the facilities they've got there. Free boat launching, filleting tables at every boat ramp,
bins.
Good bins, like fish waste bins as well, where they're composting the fish waste and stuff like that. We haven't got any of that stuff going on in South Australia, so you do go to different states that have got recreational fishing licenses, even though some of the people there complain about them too. You do see the difference and the benefit from it. So I'm, in that light, I am pro a fishing license, but it has to be implemented properly, and it would be an extremely difficult line to walk, which I think is why the government sort of shied away from it. It would be a hard one to do, but if it if it was done properly and done in a transparent way, where the 100% of the funds, hard to say 100% of the funds because there's always going to be administrative costs. There's always going to be some costs, so it is a difficult one. But as transparent as possible, and where as much of the funds as possible go straight back into recreational fishing.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's as well as fisheries, it makes more jobs. It gives all the building the infrastructure. Better boat ramps, bins, shelters, filling tables, all of that stuff. It goes back into it.
Yeah. So
if it goes back into it,
in a perfect, as long as it goes back into it, and that's where the stumbling block is. You do see a lot of costs in other states absorbed. So it's a difficult one, and I'm a fan of it if it was done properly, but.
And a lot of the other states do a lot more stocking with it,
exactly right.
Where it'd be quite beneficial for it to.
Exactly right, yeah.
Artificial reefs and stuff like that, which would be perfect for you guys as well,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you'd be a big fan of more artificial reefs to dive off of and
definitely.
fish off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was there anything else about Golf Skindivers you'd like to cover?
Yeah, we got a bit sidetracked a bit there, didn't we? Look, it's a great club with we promote a really positive family culture. I try to Yaz, my partner Yaz and Dakoyta come down to our events. Other guys bring their partners, and we try to actively encourage them to bring partners and kids to the social days.
So you guys base somewhere, or you just kind of meet up?
Yeah,
pick up like this.
We haven't really got club rooms or a base as such, but it's just we try to run events every month, whether it's beach cleanups or seafood cook-ups or spearfishing competitions. We do run a couple of different sort of spearfishing competitions during the year. Yeah,
Liam was saying he gets involved, a couple on KI you do every now and again.
Yeah, we run one on KI, and then we run one on Yorks, which Liam usually organises, and recently ran it just a few weeks ago over at Point Riley on York Peninsula, one of our super selective species competitions.
I've seen the stats go up and the scoreboards go up. And
he's done
lots of great photos.
Yeah, he's done a really good job the last couple of years running it. So that's a great thing to see, guys taking the reins, and again, it's nurturing an experience here that it's not an easy thing to run an event where you're getting 30, 40, 50 people in one place, and you're running it properly and safely and communicating with people in the lead up. So it's the whole club scene. It's imparting skills onto even the people organising the event, such as Liam. Like, he probably didn't have any. I don't think he did have any experience in running events prior to this, and through the club, he's
that's awesome.
Doing a fantastic job the last couple of years with the Yorks Classic.
How many people are involved in Golf Skindivers?
We have a core group of about half a dozen guys who sort of do the intricate organising behind the scenes. We've got about 100 members, active members that are financial. And to any event, we get some, anywhere up to sort of 50 people to an event. Yeah. Sometimes less. It just sort of depends on the event and people's availability. Yeah. But yeah, we like to sort of change it up a little bit, not be all about the competitions, and where we do competitions, try to do it a little bit differently to traditional comps, and but do other fun stuff like boat dives. Lots of guys haven't had the opportunity to dive from boats before, so try to do a boat dive each year and do a beach cleanup. Try to do that stewardship thing and show that we're not just about going out and a lot of misconceptions about spearos just go out and shoot everything they see, which is just completely not true.
I actually screenshotted an article that popped up in my newsfeed the other day. I am pretty sure you commented on it, and that's why it's popped up in my.
Yeah, I've had to be a little bit active on the on the old socials and newspaper recently.
It's,
your 24/7 job.
Yeah, nearly. Yeah.
Where'd it go? It was one of the activist groups that weren't too happy with the couple metro beaches open. It's like hunting, just people not understanding, and it was the banned spearfishing article in the paper that popped up the other day with the Marine Life Society talking out about it. And
So these guys, they've just, there's nothing wrong. I've got nothing against the Marine Life Society or anything like that, and I've had discussions with them in the past about things, and that the views of these articles, such as the one the letter to the editor you just mentioned, it's a very old school pattern of thinking that actually isn't relevant today. So it's one of those things where it's just all about education. You've just got to just keep on saying, that this is how it is now. It's not.
So do you think they're against it for more of a safety thing, or just because they think you're going out and shooting all the fish that...
I think it's a little bit of both. I think I probably underestimated the community perspective on safety.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, a spear gun is an extremely safe tool.
Yeah.
But to people that have never seen one get used, I can sort of understand how their way of thinking might be that it's not safe. So, and that's something that I underestimated just purely from having an understanding of it.
Yeah.
There's definitely there is definitely a perspective of the marine life concern as well, which comes down to us as a spearfishing club ensuring that we educate people on spearfishing does allow you to. So if you take a fish like I'm going to talk about a fish that's very unpopular for a spearfisher to take, and that's, let's say, a blue devil, for example. Yep. It's a fish that's not very often seen by many people, doesn't get caught on bait or fishing a lot, but it's a highly valuable fish to a scuba diver.
Okay, yeah.
On a shallow inshore reef.
I can't personally picture it.
Beautiful iridescent blue fish that live in caves. Yeah. And I've seen it pop up numerous times that spearfishers are gonna destroy the local population of blue devilfish, and it's just not true. Spearfishers just aren't going to target blue devilfish for one, and two, as a club, we would actively condemn. Like, if somebody came in with a blue devil, I'd be the first one that's going over there going, like, while it's not illegal, it's not, there's no regulations as far as fisheries go on blue devils in South Australia.
It's not something is it something you would eat? Is it?
Well, they are edible. You can eat them.
Are they just reasonably small? Or
they're often not a large fish, but they're a high value fish for scuba divers, and just. So it's one of those things that you just got to constantly educate people, not just the spearfishers themselves, but educate
the public,
the public, and the people that do enjoy going out there and just snorkeling. That's fine and a great activity for them to be doing, but the ocean needs to be enjoyed and shared by everyone.
Exactly, and it's the same thing with hunting. It's just educating the public. I do a lot of bow fishing, so. I'm not sure how familiar you are with bow fishing. In South Australia, you can only bow fish in the backwaters of the Murray River, which it's something I would like to eventually try and get changed. I would love to be able to do some saltwater bow fishing,
Sure.
Go on a tuna charter and try and get into a school of tuna and, burley up and try and shoot something like that. But even, I'm not sure. Have you eaten ray before, stingray?
I have, yeah.
So in New South Wales, Queensland, New South Wales I think has changed recently, but Queensland and Northern Territory, you can go bow fishing for sharks and rays, and it's pretty much in those states it's spearfishing laws. So pretty much everywhere you can spearfish, you can bow fish. Which would be great if we could incorporate that here too. But I've got a spot down in up in Murray Bridge that I used to hit up. I've been fishing it for 5 years, a beautiful little backwater bit. There's a main road next to it, and across the road there's some houses. And the last few times, every time we've gone out, cops rock up within a couple of hours of us being there. And, we're pulling massive breeding carp out of the waterways.
Doing a good thing.
The cops rock up, they have a chat, and they're like, we had to come down. Someone's rang up and complained, and one of the last times one of my mates went out there, he had the cops rock up, and they've actually gone out and pointed where they put up the council's put up no fishing signs or anything that's going to interrupt the peacefulness of the area.
Yeah, okay.
And then the guy that rang up come across the road, and he's like starting to try and start and fight him. So I'm assuming it'd be similar to spearfishing. People would see you climbing into the water with a spear gun, and they see it as a.
It's not. It hasn't been too much of an issue up until now. Obviously, it's a little bit more on the forefront of people's minds with the opening of areas like, Outer Harbour, Merino, Halla Cove, which was our argument for getting them open in the first place, was more equitable access. If you live in the city, there was nowhere to go spearfishing, and spearfishing it's a fantastic, healthy, active outdoor activity where you're collecting a selective feed of seafood.
You're being very selective, unlike fishing.
So
like I'm a massive rod and reel angler, but spearfishing, you're being selective. It's like hunting. You're only taking what you're choosing to take. Where fishing, you're pulling up everything 100%. Until you find you get what you want, really.
Yeah, and I don't like separating the two like that, and I have done it recently on socials and that, and I've been pulled up by it from line fishers.
I've seen a couple of comments.
And rightly so. There's definite benefits to both, and they both should be championed as a fantastic outdoor activity.
It's the same with bow hunting and rifle hunting. There's a lot of separation between the two on the hunting groups, and there's guys that think bow hunting should be banned. There's, guys that are just strictly bow hunting. They won't touch a rifle. I was like that when I first got into it, I put off getting my license for years because I was that into bow hunting. And then it's just like, I can be a bit more selective with a rifle, and, it's very, very similar. And there's the demonization between the two at times. But we're all in it together where you're hunting, fishing, spearfishing, it's all very similar, and
we need to make sure that we are united on that front.
We're all fighting for the same thing at 100%. The end of the day. We want sustainable. That's the thing. We want a sustainable ecosystem. We don't want to shoot everything out. We want there to be a nice, healthy, balanced ecosystem where we can take our kids out and enjoy the
100%.
Enjoy the wildlife and fish and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, Dakoyta. How old were you when you started going out? I think we covered that a little bit at the start, but fishing, hunting, when?
I was, as Dad said before, I was about 6 when we started walking out and doing stuff. And I think it wasn't that long ago that I actually shot my first animal. I think my goat was my first animal. I hadn't shot very much before then, I don't think. And then the spearfishing, I started snorkeling when I was about the same age, about 6. And then when I was about 7, 8, I shot my first fish, and I shot 2 on that day, actually.
Awesome. That's better than my first day out. So your dad also sent a photo through of you and a couple of other young girls skinning out some goats.
Yeah.
Yep. Was that on that first trip where you took your first goat as well, or?
Yeah, so we went goat hunting, and we were out there for, I think, 7 days the first time. And I went out like at 6 o'clock every morning for like 4 days straight. And then Dad decided that I'd gone out enough and got enough like knowledge and everything to get my own one. So then we were like walking out in the bush on the 6th day, I'm pretty sure. And then Mum has this complete eagle eye. She can just spot goats from miles away. Just spots them up on the hill and we can't even see them. And so she spotted the whole entire herd, all different colours, up on the hill. And then so we got into the position so the wind was the right way, everything was in our favour. And then I was probably sitting there for like half an hour because, like my mum, I'm very picky on what animal I get. I want a nice rug, nice big animal with horns and stuff. And so I was there like just scanning through them, just like checking out which ones. And then I could just hear Mum in the background going, because it was taking a long time to pick which one I wanted, because I'd watch one for a while and I'd be like, should I pull the trigger? It's like got a pretty coat, but I could find a better one. And I'd just zoom across, find another one. And then I found this one that I liked. It had a really nice brown coat. And so I shot that one. And after I'd shot it, I had this ringing in my ear for about a minute after. It was just ringing, ringing, ringing. And then, so we walked up this massive hill to go find my goat. And then it was like, where I shot it, it was like a ledge going straight down. So it rolled down onto the ledge below it.
Goats do that. They have a habit of doing that.
Yeah. But it was a little bit heavy, so I couldn't carry it back. So Dad had to carry it back. But then on all the trips that we've been on goat hunting, me, Roxy and Ava, which are our family friends that we're really close to, we try and skin as many as we can.
Yep.
Like, we probably skun more than the boys did last time.
That's
we
great.
Just like
That's awesome.
doing them. Yeah.
That's awesome. So how was your first experience skinning a medium-sized animal like that? How were you with it? Fine?
Oh, yeah, I was pretty fine. I'd had lots of practice on foxes and stuff. Yep. And so I kind of knew how to do it. Dad just gave me a quick run-through with his, like, when I first learned how to skin foxes and stuff, he did his while I was doing mine so he could help me out. And so he did that with my first one. And then once I did it once, I was kind of, like, getting into the hang of it. And then the second time we went goat hunting, I kind of, like, got in the rhythm of knowing how to, like, what spots you need to be more careful on because the skin rips more and stuff like that.
Yep. Awesome. So do you have the rug in your room? Has it been?
Yes.
Yep.
But then the trip that we recently went out on, I got this beautiful rug. It was black with little white dots. It looked like a cow. And that one's prioritised in my bedroom, but the brown one's still on the floor.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I used to have a fair few goat rugs as a kid in my room, but, you know, dogs and age got the best of them, you know.
Not the proudest dad moment with the let her take a shot with a 270 without earmuffs on, hence the ringing in the ears. But yeah, a small oversight in the heat of the moment, I guess.
Yeah, these things happen, you know. When I take my 2-year-old out, almost 2-year-old out, I haven't taken him out with a rifle yet. I'm like, I need to get him some hearing protection before I do. I take him for a walk with a bow, you know. He's too loud anyway. He walks along, he's like, Dad, deer. And then on the weekend we're out, he's like, Dad, buck. Like, not seeing anything. He's just, Dad. And then he goes, Dad, T-Rex. I'm like, I bloody hope not. But yeah, he's like walking along, talking, climbing over sticks, throwing rocks, you know, just letting him have fun and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty hilly spot, you know. He started getting tired around 9:30. We're out there from about 8:30, but he's like, Dad, home. And yeah, as soon as we got to the car, he just crashed out and slept for 2 hours. So Dakota, what do your friends at school and other young ladies you meet say when they find out you go spearfishing and hunting and you've got goat skins in your room? And
well, the first time I ever bring something related to this into school, it was a full fox skin that Dad, it was probably about 6 years old. Dad would have had it for ages. And I bring it in this bag and I opened it up. All the other people for show and tell bring in their like new dogs, new cats, maybe a photo of them in some different country or some like prize they got. And then I just whip out this big fox skin. It was the largest one we had. And everyone just stares at me like, what is that? And I'm like, this is my fox skin that my dad got ages ago. And they just like, I had to like hand it to every single kid. Like it would go around the circle and then the teacher was just like, to let everyone have a pat. So everyone was just walking around the circle giving it a pat. And it was so funny because everyone didn't like know, it looked like no one had ever seen it before. But now...
What was your teacher's reaction like?
Oh, well, my teacher kind of knew I did it a bit more, so he wasn't as surprised. But then he kind of thought it was kind of cool. I think he might have thought it was the best one there. But yeah, I think he thought it was pretty cool.
So how old were you when you did this show and tell with the fox skin?
I think I was 7, pretty sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I like we were talking before the podcast, I had very similar experiences in school, bringing in goat horns and skulls and foxtails and skins and goat skins, and you know, I had a few pet lizards and snakes, so I'd bring like kids would bring in their dogs and cats and I'd bring in my pet snake for So yeah, it was always a different thing with me. Everyone's like, oh, okay, why are you bringing this dead animal in? Or, you know, all right, Zach's got his snake here again. Those that are scared of it, please leave the room.
Good on you.
So what do your other school friends say when they find out, or do you play sports or anything like that? You meet other people doing that, and then they find out you go out?
Well, I do a lot of other activities, like I'm in other groups and stuff. But mostly my friends come over for my birthdays and they just walk into the house. The first thing you see is a massive photo wall of all of our photos, like random photos of dead animals, families, birthdays, heaps of dad spearfishing. That's probably a majority of the wall. And then you're like, oh, this is so much. And then you just want to go sit down on the lounge. But then when you go into the lounge room, there's skulls everywhere. The couches are layered with skins, the floors with skins, and then you turn around and face the wall and there's this wall of cool stuff. We got crayfish, cool shells, we got all our antlers and stuff like that, and it's really cool.
Do you have any fish mounts or anything like that?
No, I've never gotten into the more into bones than actually whole mounts. So done a couple of jaws and stuff like that.
Snapper jaws and stuff like that. They're pretty cool.
A Spanish mackerel set of jaws. Sort of more into the white bone look rather than the coloured fish.
I've seen a few fish photos recently where people are doing whole mounts, but just fish bones. And they look pretty cool.
It's even just doing a pretty simple jaw skull mount. It's the most difficult adult puzzle you could possibly attempt. So I've had a couple of cracks at it and it's been okay, but not something that I would immerse myself in doing the whole fish as awesome as it looks. I would love to have one. But
there's some cool guys that do them.
There's
a guy down south that does a couple, he does a lot of freshwater species, and you see the redfin that he does, and they look pretty realistic. I think they're just the replica mounts. They're not actually skin mounts, but pretty interesting.
Very cool. Yeah.
So what have you guys forgotten on a hunting or fishing trip?
I'll let Dakota go first, and then I'll go second.
Well, one thing me and my friends always forget when we go hunting is food. We're out there begging our parents to see if they have food in their backpack, but they never do. It's just do we have muesli bars? Do we have any of this? And it comes down to it where sometimes you get bad food, bad muesli bars and stuff, and they're the things that we have to eat because we don't have any other food and we're starving out there.
Been there.
But I think we just over-exaggerate a bit. You're usually not that hungry because you have big breakfast and then you get a lunch when you get home, but you just feel hungry because you're just waiting there.
We're never going to make them starve to death. I'm reasonably organised both in my spearfishing and my hunting, so I don't often forget stuff. The one thing that would be regularly forgotten would be a knife. It's just
Is that a dive knife or just hunting knife?
No, hunting knife. That's when I'm hunting. When I'm spearfishing, I nearly never forget anything. It's pretty. I'm very organised with my spearfishing. But I did forget my fins once. So I went to a dive. Luckily, it was only a local dive before work. But
oh no!
I forgot my fins. So I was having to push myself along the bottom with just my feet, which wasn't much fun. But still got a feed. So made the most of it.
That sounds hard.
Definitely don't recommend forgetting fins. But no catastrophic forgetful moments, I don't think.
I normally have I have 2 knives in my binder harness, and then I'll have a couple extra in the pack, and that's something you can never have too much
100%, on.
So what's some spearfishing etiquette?
It's been talked about a fair bit lately, I guess. Just treat people how you would want to be treated would be sort of, and a lot of it is just fairly common sense stuff. If you're going for a shore dive and there's someone fishing off the rocks, give them plenty of space. Swim 50 metres further out and around them, and go back in close if that's what you need to do, so you don't swim through their fishing lines, for example. If there's a boat anchored, obviously give them plenty of room. There's no need to go and, swim around 20 metres from their boat or anything like that. As far as, entering and exiting the water, we've been pretty hot on, especially with these new zones recently opening. Covering your spear tip when you get out of the water, use your snorkel to put it over the end of your gun. It's a pretty basic safety rule when it comes to spearfishing. Keep your spear tip covered at all times when you're out of the water. Never have your spear gun loaded out of the water. And just respect people. Give people space. Don't go out and kill the pig, so to speak. Take only what you need to eat is a pretty big one as far as the etiquette goes. Obviously not against freezing some fish. You obviously don't need to eat everything straight away. Yeah. Like I've got a freezer full of fish myself, but it is definitely going to get eaten within the next few months. So, and just respect the. I guess on the etiquette thing, have a think about where you are, and in insensitive areas such as merino, try to target pelagic species. Pelagic species, your species that move from an area to an area. They don't actually live on that one spot. Whereas your demersal fish are your magpie perch and boarfish and resident like leather jackets and stuff like that. They're all resident reef fish. They're living there. They're not going to go and swim 50 kilometres down the coast like a salmon will. So we try to encourage people. There's nothing wrong with taking some demersal fish, but try to limit your take on those fish. Target pelagics. Whereas if you're in a area down the bottom end of Yorks or somewhere that's a lot more remote, and you really enjoy eating magpie perch, for example, and you want to shoot half a dozen, then go for it. That's fine. But you just got to be a little bit sensitive about where you are and what
makes sense.
Yeah, just a bit of common sense and try to respect how people around you might be feeling and try to be sensitive to that, I guess.
A little bit off topic. What would your favourite fish be to spear for eating?
Favourite fish to spear for eating. Pretty tricky. I would rate swallowtail. They're very similar to a red snapper, what some people call a nanny guy here in South Australia. Swallowtail are like a smaller version of them, often schooling on offshore reefs. They're just a beautiful, delicate, sweet meat. Underrated fish. I really enjoy Australian salmon, fresh.
Yeah, that's one of my favourite saltwater species to eat. And I get demonised whenever I say it. They're like, why are you eating them? I'm like, I grew up surf fishing with my pop, so, every time we went out, I'd smoke salmon. But even eating fillets fresh, and you get the bigger fish and you cut them into steaks, and they're definitely my favourite saltwater.
Yeah, and you don't have to, when you eat them fresh, you don't have to do anything special with them. Like I'll bleed them in the water, gut them straight away. Put them on ice for a couple of hours, and I'll just salt and pepper, just the basic fillet salt and pepper, and just cook it in butter. And
they're beautiful.
It's just delicious. Very, very underrated South Australian fish.
So is that your favourite way to mainly cook fish, just like that, salt, pepper?
Quite often that is a bit of a go-to for me.
Nothing too fancy, or
it maintains the fish's integrity, and I do like really lightly dusting in egg and breadcrumbs for certain species as well, like your snook. Snook is another fish that I really enjoy eating.
Good smoked.
Yeah, good smoke. Again, like one of those fish that not highly regarded by some people. But just lightly dusted in egg and breadcrumbs. I find it hard to go past a good feed of snook.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of heavily battered fish. To me, that just ruins. But something I've found over the last 10-ish years is you can buy a Kentucky Fried seasoning from the shops, and I do heaps of fish in this Kentucky Fried seasoning.
Haven't tried that.
I put a bit of chili powder in there, and it's wicked. It just gives it a wicked flavour. But I do it fresh water and salt water and all of that. What about you, Dakoyta? What's your favourite eating fish that you guys...
My favourite eating and catching fish would have to be garfish. They are my absolute favourite. When I'm in a competition, all I wish for is a garfish. It's just the only fish I want. They're kind of like a really challenging fish, because they're on the surface and they're in shallow a lot.
And they're tiny.
Yeah, they're tiny. And then they're delicious cooked. Like Dad said, you just lightly batter them and then fry them in the pan, and then they just taste delicious, like that crunchy flavour. They're so good.
No, garfish are a great eating fish. When I went out for my first time spearing, the guy I went with, he speared a few garfish, and I'm like, like with a gun he was spearing them, and I was blown away. I was struggling to get close to anything, and there's him spearing the gar. No, they're a wicked eating fish, that's for sure. Back to etiquette. Boating. What would your advice be for boaters around you guys when you're out?
Yep. Obviously, when you're spearfishing, it's highly recommended. It's not law, but it is strongly recommended by everyone to always tow a float with your alpha diver below flag, which is your blue and white flag on top of your float. And as we're seeing an increase in numbers in the sport, there is a lot more of these little floats getting around in the water in inshore areas. Just go slow. I think the rule is you have to go, off the top of my head, I don't even know if I know it. I think it's you should slow down to 4 knots within 50 metres of the blue and white alpha flag. I think that's correct from memory. But just like spearfishers should respect boats when they're when they're anchored up, we shouldn't go near you.
Yeah.
Just give spearfishers a wide berth. If you see a float, just keep away from it. There's going to be and quite often divers will, they shouldn't, but quite often they can venture, a little bit too, if they've got their float anchored or something, they might go, a little bit further away.
Chasing those fish.
Than you might expect them to be. So so just if you see that float, keep well away from it if you can, and if the diver pops his head up and sees you, like if I see a boat coming nearby, I'll often pop my head up and give them a wave, and if they wave back, yep, sweet, we've acknowledged each other. We know we're both there, and if they drift past flicking squid jags, I'm not fast. It's more the boat under power that I'm going to be concerned about. That's the main thing. It gets a little bit tricky as far as tuna schools and stuff like that when you start doing the offshore stuff, which is a little bit more hectic.
Yeah, I've seen some of the photos of Liam and that out chasing tuna. That's pretty epic. You've gone onto a few tuna. I've enjoyed chasing tuna as well over the years. We're actually the first ones in the world to shoot southern bluefin tuna over 100 kilos. On spear back in 2014, so that was chasing the barrels. That's awesome, man. So that was not lots of people, like lots of fishers don't catch 100 kilo tuna, let alone shoot.
Quite an amazing experience. And
that size, do they drag you around a bit, or
they fight just like every other tuna, just heavier basically. So tuna are renowned just for bombing straight to the bottom and doing big circle works until you tire them out.
Do you use floats and stuff? Like I was listening to the Meat Eater podcast, and he was talking to Kimmy, and she was saying that she shot like a 600-pound marlin or something like that, something ridiculous, and she'd just pretty much put the float on and just hug the float until it wore out.
That's pretty much how it goes. You use a large gun with what we call a breakaway rig, so your gun actually separates from your entire setup, and your shooting line's connected to a cord and a rope and a float on the surface.
They have a similar setup for bow fishing, like alligator gar, and when they're doing, like, there's a guy in Western Australia, he's taken a couple tiger sharks and stuff like that with a bow.
Wow. That's pretty out there.
They take, like, some of the old school trad guys got on some big fish, especially the big pelagic species with bow fishing gear back in the day, but they tend to go more for freshwater stuff these days. But what's the funniest hunting fishing story you have?
That's a really tricky one to answer. With any sport, I guess, that you or activity that you undertake for many years, there's plenty. There's always a laugh. There's always a laugh among mates, and that. I find it really hard to pinpoint a really humorous one. There's a lot of moments where losing boats off trailers at boat ramps, at remote ramps and stuff like that. Liam was talking about a boat sinking. never very funny to have these mishaps happen at the time, but you always look back and when you're having a few beers with mates and they're pretty funny later on. But yeah, I find it really hard to...
Any really silly stuff-ups or just forgetting a bung out on a boat, or as Liam brought up, I think is it Alistair? They had a mishap with the jet ski.
Yeah, Alistair's a little bit accident prone.
That was a great story. I had to segment that bit, and I chucked it up on TikTok and Instagram and just that clip. So I actually haven't spoken to Alistair, but I'm sure he wouldn't be too happy.
He's a great bloke. I'm sure he'll see the funny side in it, and he's the first one that'll laugh at himself.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too stressed about it. But yeah, there's I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one. It's just always a good time with mates. And
what about you, Dakota? Do you have one?
Yeah. In my competition, my very first competition, I think it was, with Dad, I was doing the York Classic.
Yeah.
And we went out and he was teaching me, this was the very first time he was teaching me how to catch squid. And so we shot our Tommy earlier that day, and Dad was throwing it up and out into the water.
Just quickly, Dakota, just elaborate on what you were doing there, why you were doing that. For the squid, why were you throwing a Tommy?
Oh, because the squid like the fish that comes down, like they like the food because they nest on the bottom, and when they see food, they just want to grab it. So they come out of the seaweed, which is where we were taking them, and they just want to come and grab it. So there was these probably about 5 squid that came in, but they were coming in, not out. And we were like, so I was getting ready to shoot. Before we did this, Dad explained to me, like, just wait till they come in, wait till they get close near the fish before, like, let them kind of touch the fish, and then when they, like, are about to, like, kind of move off, you just want to, like, aim your gun down there slowly and then shoot them. And so I saw these squid, and I just pulled my gun up and shot them, and somehow I shot this squid, and it was probably about like a metre or metre and a half away, and then I was so proud of myself, and then Dad was like, oh, that's a little bit of a fluke, like you kind of were a little bit far away from that squid to shoot it, and that was probably the funniest story I've got so
that's
far.
Great.
Yeah, little tip for the beginners in there as well with the throw a fish for squid on weed beds.
Yeah, it wasn't until recently I didn't even think about chasing squid like with a spear gun. Like it wasn't even a thought. And then I think and Rob Zacher, I think he posted some photos up of some squid that he'd got, and I'm like, oh, holy shit! Like I didn't even think of it. That's awesome.
Good fun species to chase with beginners for sure.
Have you seen that crab cam post lately with all this? He's been blowing up, but it's been cool watching the squid come out and fight the crabs, and the crabs fighting them off, and all the other species cruising around.
Need someone to get creative and do a commentary to it. And
send them off to Aussie Man.
Aussie Man would have a treat with it, wouldn't he?
I'm surprised he hasn't picked him up yet, because the videos have been getting 20, 30. I think I haven't seen one with like 60,000 views.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
like they've just been shared everywhere. What about a dangerous thing? Do you have a most sketchy or dangerous thing that's happened while you've been out, either hunting or fishing?
I've got probably not so much hunting, I guess. It's hunting wise pretty safe, and haven't ever forgotten water or gotten stuck out there or anything like that. It's but yeah, definitely diving and spearfishing wise. I had when I was work diving off an island off Victoria, I had my head chewed on by an elephant seal last year or the year before, which is a bit out there. Yeah, that's insane. So it wasn't dangerous as it turned out. I'm still here, but it certainly could have gone.
That would have been a weird feeling.
It was. We had seen it previously the day before. We'd seen this elephant seal in the area, but we dove the other side of this island that the next day, and a fairly big island, and I was in fairly shallow water, 3-4 meters, and felt something on my head, and sort of lifted my head up, and an elephant seal, you just... Yeah,
they're a big animal. Like
really,
I've seen
really
the one.
Yeah.
Well, not the one, but Victor gets one on the beach every now and again.
Yeah,
and,
radio. Yeah. Not something that I'd be throwing myself in the water with voluntarily.
So do they have much teeth or anything like that?
I couldn't feel any teeth. It was more just the sort of flubbery mouth, sort of like a dog nuzzling a ball sort of thing. I think it was sort of just curious of what I was. It might have been...
Did you know it was that when it grabbed you? Or
no, well, as soon as I looked up, I knew what it was, and I sort of pushed my abalone iron, because I was fishing for abalone at the time, pushed my abalone iron into its belly, and just a super soft, blubbery belly, and it sort of moved off about 5 meters and then just sat there mid-water, just watching me, like, obviously super...
I'm sure your heart was racing. Like,
it was...
I don't think an elephant seal was the first thought that when something grabs you in the water.
Yeah, it's a fairly large seal colony, that island too, fairly renowned for white sharks, so yeah, you're never very relaxed in that sort of water.
There was one last year. I think he was an abalone diver as well, but got the dude that got swallowed by the whale.
The whale, yeah.
That would be just...
Wait, did he get out?
Yeah.
He
spat him out. I think it was a blue whale that, swallowed him while he was working.
That would be kind of a cool story to tell.
He just popped up like 100 meters from the boat when the whale spat him out, just sucked him up and spat him out.
Unbelievable, isn't it? The things that happen when you spend time in the water. But yeah, other than that, not really any particularly sketchy times. I have seen a white shark, but it wasn't aggressive. It just passed through.
It's actually pretty cool seeing there's a big one that cruises off in New Zealand, and there's a few divers that get real close and go up. It was a big pregnant one. Yeah, and they're like diving and patting this white shark as it's swimming around. And it's man, that's... Yeah,
I wouldn't be...
Bit dangerous.
Yeah, too much risk in that for me.
just for the listeners, and have you had much encounters with sharks out? Any bad encounters?
Not bad encounters. Yeah, no, never had any real bad ones. I've had fish eaten off my float before and stuff like that, but that's usually bronzies.
Yeah. But bronzies seem to be the biggest one in South Australia for guys. Liam was saying that he's had a couple of run-ins with some small bronzies, and
definitely a lot more bronzies than anything else, I would say. But yeah, most of the time I think sharks are an overrated, overhyped risk, really. That it's not really a huge deal in my mind.
I talk with lots of Americans, and they're like, as if you walk through the bush in shorts, and I'm like, our animals aren't that dangerous. Most of them give you space, whether it's sharks or every now and again there's that mistaken identity or just a pissed off shark trying to get some food off. The most famous story, the Rodney Fox. That's the closest thing in South Australia that's really happened that's made news everywhere. That I know of anyway. But
there has been more recent attacks, obviously, but it's fortunately few and far between, and hopefully we can keep keep it few and far between.
Like I said at the start, the most dangerous thing would be driving to and from, having a car accident or something, It's one of those things. What about you, Dakoyta? Have you had any dangerous encounters while you're out, or?
Yes, I was probably 8 or 9, like I'd only been diving for a couple of years, and we went out on this boat day. It was just like out of the boat ramp, but then we went out deep and we were just like snorkeling around, having a check at everything, and then there was like the boat ramp and we were like off the side of it a bit, and we were like me, Dad, and then Roxy and Ava from the photos before, they were they came out with us. So Dad took me out first, and there was like the rock wall, and we were just going there because it was like a bit of the reef area, and I was diving down, and it was probably like 3 or 4 meters there. It was pretty deep there, and I was lining up this, I can't even remember what it was. I think it might have been a magpie perch, I think, and then there was this massive seal in the water, and I haven't seen anything else worse because I haven't been diving for very long. Like, I've never encountered a shark or anything, and so my sudden urge was, I just jump on Dad's back. Like, the seal can take Dad first. And so I just climbed, like, because there was people in the boat watching me. So I just climb on top of Dad's bulk, and I'm literally just, like, holding onto his shoulders, sitting on his back, because I could not handle being in the water with a seal. And these people on the boat, they're videoing me jumping on his back because I was so scared. And then I have a look at this video after, and literally I just jumped out of the water screaming and then jumped on Dad's back. And then I was sitting there, and then they're like, oh, you're right. And I, like, kind of went back into the water, and then the seal was still there, and then Dad just held me back a little bit because I was still kind of nervous. And then I saw a dolphin go past, which made me feel a little bit better, but there was still a scary seal in the water.
Like father, like daughter, sketchy seal.
Yeah, sketchy seals. Yeah, you got to watch those seals. It's good for the kids to experience all the larger marine mammals, and it's interesting. Even harmless, relatively harmless stuff like seals, they can still be pretty intimidating the first time you experience them. So.
Yeah, I've seen the canines on the fur seals, and I wouldn't want to get nipped by one, that's for sure.
No.
What about top 5 dream animals or fish species? Or places to dive?
Yeah, fish species. I would like to take all of the billfish species.
Yeah.
I took a striped marlin a couple of years back, early 2020, I think it was.
Where was that?
That was off Bermagui.
Where's that?
On the east coast of sort of southern New South Wales. Yep. So yeah, managed to get a nice striped marlin out there, which was a great experience. Delicious eating fish.
Size? What?
It was 108 kilos.
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, one of those ones that use the big gun with the breakaway and floats and all that sort of stuff on it. And just a personal goal of mine. I'll never shoot another striped marlin. Yeah. That's just where I sort of sit with it. But if I saw a black marlin, I'd love to take a black marlin. If I saw a blue, I'd love to take a blue.
They're beautiful. Speaking of skull mounts, I seen a skull mount of a marlin the other day on Instagram, and wicked. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of spearfishing fish goals. That's sort of what I'd and a swordfish is sort of the holy grail. Pretty sketchy fish to spear. They're sort of renowned for turning and coming at you, and a very, very difficult fish to successfully even target and find, because they like deep water and usually come to the surface at night time and stuff like that. So it's a dream that probably won't ever come to fruition, but who knows. And as far as hunting goes, to be honest, I would like to take a chital. I think chital are just a very beautiful, pretty deer.
And for the American listeners, chital is axis.
Yeah. That's definitely a bucket list deer for me. But as far as the hunting goes, I hunt more to feed myself rather than the trophy thing isn't really my kettle of fish. I've gone to Russia with a good mate and successfully hunted moose.
Oh wow, that's
like
awesome.
That. So that was a pretty.
Give us a quick rundown on that.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick rundown on that. That was far eastern Russia on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Yep. A few years ago, and it was very, very early. Initially, we'd teed up a moose hunt, and the people that we had teed up the moose hunt with, obviously didn't understand what sort of hunters we were and all that sort of stuff, and they'd arranged a helicopter to take us out and shoot moose with semi-autos from this helicopter, and it was like, no, that is not what we're about. Yeah. Like we want to actually hunt one. Like we want to. Yeah. So the whole plan changed, and we ended up at this hunting lodge in far eastern Russia, and took 10 days. So it was very, very early. So even the hunting outfitters were saying it's too early. Too early. You're probably not going to see one, but decided to gamble it anyway, and and we took 10 I think it was 10 hunts, 9 hunts or 10 hunts, morning and night, and it was the day before we were due to leave on the very last hunt that we managed to.
So were you calling them in?
Yeah, we were calling them in. Yeah.
That's wicked. They travel some
Yeah, pretty amazing. Like,
was it a big ball? Or?
It was a reasonable one. Yeah,
those Russian moose get big.
Yeah,
nice big paddles either side.
Yeah. It was mind-numbing how when you actually walked up to it and you saw it on the ground, it was just bigger than anything that you ever see in Australia. Like, just the sheer size of them. It was pretty humbling. I wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. I was just there for the experience.
Oh, even still, that'd be. But
just hearing this thing, you know, you're calling in the middle of nowhere, and you can hear. We heard it coming in for probably 45 minutes in the distance.
They just do that.
You'd hear the response. It sounded like a barking dog, just really, really distant. It gradually got louder and louder and louder, and then once it was probably, I don't know how close, maybe 200, 300 meters away, it started really like getting a bit aggro and thrashing trees, and it sounded like a bulldozer coming through the forest. It was pretty amazing.
So was it pretty dense forest you guys were in? It was
pretty dense, yeah.
Because I just have a picture, you know, you think of like the Alaska where they're hunting them, and it's just like shoulder high bushes, and you can see for ages. So it was
more
timber,
birch forest sort of country. Lots of silver birch and just undercover throughout that as well. But
that's awesome.
It was a very cool hunt.
Did you see many other species while you're out there?
No, we only saw. We did see two other moose during hunting, but neither of them presented a shot. And fortunately, they didn't, because they were much smaller animals than the one that we ended up taking.
They have caribou out there too, don't they?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. Like I said, I haven't really done the whole. Yeah, there was plenty of bears. Yeah.
See many.
Saw a few. Yeah.
Close.
Lots of. Close enough. Yeah. Mostly when we're fishing, we did a lot of fishing over there as well in the rivers for the salmon and.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a wicked. How did that all come? Was it work?
No, it was just through some friends that we know that are Russian and teed up a trip. My mate was trying to get me to go on this trip for a long time, and he eventually just ended up going, right, I've booked it, we're going, this is when we're going, so I didn't really get a choice in it.
That's insane, man.
Rafted down a river, fishing for salmon and eating caviar morning and night
that's
for
wicked.
5 days was pretty epic. And
moose meat and caviar. Sounds
but
ideal.
Interestingly, the Russians weren't, because we shot the moose very late at night and it was getting dark, and because there was a risk of bears we couldn't carry the whole carcass. The thing was 600 kilos, so they only took the cuts that they highly valued, which was the heart, the tongue, the testicles, the liver. It was all the offal cuts.
All the high in vitamins.
That we don't really value. And all the back straps.
Do you eat heart and liver and that when you take deer? How do you find that, Dakota? When you eat, have you ate heart and liver and?
Yeah, when we went out goat hunting, so now we've kind of got into the bit of getting all the one little materials and meat and stuff that we don't usually get. And so when we went goat hunting last, we were into the hearts. Yeah. So we got our first heart, and Ava, the person from before, was very fascinated by them. And one of the ones they shot, they did a headshot because we were going to get a nice fur, and they still saw the heart beating. And so we tried it, and the heart was I reckon it was my favourite part of the goat. It was delicious.
Yeah,
heart is so good.
Heart is really good.
How many did we catch? We caught 20 goats, I think, over a long time. And then we got, I think we ate 7 hearts, and they were delicious.
Yeah, they are really good. So what fish species did you get onto in Russia?
It's difficult for us to know the exact species because they obviously call them all different. There was 3 or 4 different types of salmon. We got nice rainbow trout
wicked.
there as well.
Was that fly or just spin?
It was all just spin. Yeah,
wicked.
All just little spinners, similar to what you'd use for redfin and stuff here, and
that's epic, man.
Shallow, cold running alpine streams basically, and amazing
that's
experience.
Insane.
Highly.
How long were you? It would probably be a bit hard to get over there now.
Definitely hard to get there now,
How long were you?
We did 5 days. 5 days river fishing, And then we did a couple of days spearfishing as well. We managed to tee up a local guy that took us out spearfishing. And,
wow.
Was
it what season?
It was their summer.
Yeah. So pretty warm.
It was sort of comparable to. Yeah, it wasn't warm, but it was
compared to a winter.
Not snowing. Yeah. Yeah, their summer you'd probably call it like our spring, maybe that sort of temperature. Yeah.
And you were about to say you did some spearfishing.
Did a little bit of spearfishing, yeah.
What'd you?
Again, don't know the species, but we shot a few unusual fish over there.
Cool.
And
got some good photos.
Delicious, yeah.
Wicked.
Quite amazing,
You'll have to send some of these photos through.
Yeah, got like snow covered mountains in the background, and you're diving out of. They dive out of some funny inflatable boats over there, and
that's wicked.
Cool, very cool experience. Yeah.
How do you see the public views on hunting and spearfishing?
That's an interesting one. I think it's hard to say. I feel like the people that I interact with see it very favourably. And that could just be because I associate myself with those sorts of people.
Yeah.
I think in a day and age where there is an ongoing swing to, you shouldn't do that, and everything's sentient and like everything's got feelings and all this sort of stuff. Like I think we need to be continuously pushing the education and the message that we spearfish and we hunt not because we want to, or partly because we want to, but because we view it as a better way.
Yeah.
It's not like, I look at the trolleys full of meat at the supermarket and it makes my stomach turn.
Yeah.
Like, but they'd probably see Dakoyta with her elbows deep in a goat carcass. And
I love that photo.
Dad
enjoying a beer.
I sent Zach a photo of me on because that's what happens. We get back to camp and we've just carted the animals for 6 kilometres over the mountains and get back to camp, and the boys sit down and have a beer and the girls get their hands dirty. So
that's dad goals for sure.
But it's a great thing. Like all kids love getting their hands dirty. Like why not let them get their hands dirty in it with an animal, and you're teaching them skills at the same time. So I think the whole public views thing, I think it's just all about education, and I don't think that. I think a lot of the conversations that I've had of people that find hunting a little bit abrasive or a little bit rednecky or whatever. If you sit down and have a conversation with them, and even my good friends I've got good friends who are vegetarians and stuff like that, and after having conversations with them, I've actually taken them out hunting myself. So it is education and doing it ethically and doing it the right way.
Exactly. If you got the information and you can pass that on well enough, it might not change their mind, but it gives them a different perspective on it. That's for sure.
100%. Yeah.
So, how would you change the public views on it? Like, how are you doing it through education for, say, spearfishing?
Yeah, well, with the spearfishing, I guess it's just all about, as people come into the club and join the club, teaching them the right way to do it. Should tell them that, the proper ways of doing things. It's not just, and over time you do enough of that.
Yeah.
And I would hope that the tide would swing and it would gradually be accepted and understood. At least, there's always going to be a minority, a small group that are totally against it, regardless of how much education you jam down their throats. But
so you were at the fishing thing on Sunday with that Lee organised. How'd that go?
Yeah, it was a great event. Lee's an absolute champion for wreck fishing in SA.
I'll eventually get her on. She said she'd be keen to, so she'll be amazing to get on, I reckon.
A tireless hard worker. I don't know where she gets the time to do everything that she does, but she does it, and again, she's very passionate about the kids and nurturing.
I love that fishing ambassador, that young fishing ambassador program she's got. That's awesome.
Yeah, reeling in junior anglers. It's a fantastic initiative.
Yeah.
I applaud a lot of what Lee does. I think she's the fishing showcase. It was a great initiative for her to get people from all different organisations and clubs together down there as West Lakes, and I think the numbers that turned up probably wasn't what she would have ideally hoped for, but for a first event, it's one of those things you start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's started it, and hopefully she might run it again next year, and it'll grow from there. So
she's definitely a great public advocate for fishing, all things fishing. So one of my last guests, Luke, he was down there, Chamo Lures.
Had a good chat to Luke.
He was on not last episode before, and then Alex, who was down there as well, he's coming on in the future as well. So it's funny how everything intertwines everything.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah.
Dakoyta.
Yes.
How do you think we could encourage more young women to get into hunting and spearfishing?
Well, I think we have a lot of men in our club, and I know a lot of them are married and have children, and I think if somehow they got their children and wives and partners into it, it would be better. But spearfishing, you can't just do it because you have to. You have to actually love it, because it takes a lot of practice, and you need the right teacher and the good education to actually do it properly.
What could dads do to encourage their daughters to come out with them?
Well, I don't know. They could say something cool about, like, them catching their own food or something. Like, it is pretty... You feel pretty proud of yourself when you get a fish and you know that you caught it, and it's a nice picture for your Instagram page. That's for sure.
All about the gram. No, that's an awesome answer. What is hunting and spearfishing to you?
To me, it's nearly these days. It's nearly wholly and solely about putting the freshest, most ethically caught food on the table that I possibly can for my family. That's essentially what it comes down to. If a disease went through and I couldn't take deer anymore and all the fish were diseased, I simply wouldn't do it, because you're not putting food on the table. That's pretty much number one why I do it. I want the food that's in my freezer to be taken ethically. I want to know where it came from.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's where it is for me. That's
great. What about you, Dakoyta? What is hunting and spearfishing to you?
Well, I find it really fun. I think it's a great exercise, and I think it's really good for anyone who has free time to get out into the water, because the water's so good. It heals things, and there's such beautiful things out there. Like, there's so many things that no people have discovered, and you're in the water and you think, has anyone actually ever been to this spot? Like, is this a spot where has someone actually been in this exact spot that I'm in? Like, you don't know, but in the land, people have been to most places because it's just busy now.
Yeah, no, it's... You're 100% correct. I have the same feeling when I'm out hunting, stepping into different spots, and it's like I might have been the first person to step here in, 100 years or 200 years, and you know that the person that was there before you was doing the exact same thing. And then with the ocean, only how much of it's been discovered? Bugger all, it's like 15 or 20%, something ridiculous,
You pick up like an antler or a rock or a cool shell, and you think, like, what was in this shell, and where did it come from? Like, has it come from the other side of the world, and the tide and the currents just bring it here?
Speaking of which, have you guys ran into anything odd while you've been out? Like, just, floating debris off something that's come off a ship, or... I don't know, the question just popped into my mind there.
I'd have to have a bit of a think. You often do see little interesting, palm fronds, or like just interesting stuff in the water that's not actually from the area that you're diving, and it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah, there was a couple guys fishers I know from KI. They ran into that yacht that was floating around, and then another one found a piece of a plane that washed up on a beach, and they had to get the like some people down from the government because they thought maybe it was a part of that MH370, and
wow,
it was a few years after that went down, and washed up on KI, and they're like, oh, that's a bit of fuselage. That's we should call someone.
You should probably report that one. Yeah. Oh, I can't. Nothing comes straight to my head. But you can say something. Yeah.
I can't remember where I was diving, but there was this thing on the ground, and it looked like a gravestone. Like it was it was like pointed up, and it was like that, and then it had an arch at the top, and then it had this writing on it. And I dove down, but it was so like dirty with everything, and it looked so old that I couldn't read what it was. But it would have been really cool to have read what it was. Like it looked like a gravestone.
It could have been. It wouldn't surprise me if someone's just like, pushed it off. This is where Dad belongs now.
I have found memorial anchors and stuff like that. Obviously
that's cool.
On favourite fishing reefs. Somebody that's died, and they've put an anchor down with a plaque on it and stuff like that. So, you do see a little bit of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, cool. That's epic.
Yeah, the interesting thing is about taking a bit further to taking the new people out that when you're an experienced diver or an experienced hunter, it would work both ways. You probably take for granted a lot of the stuff that you see, and you
100%.
I can remember taking Yaz and Dakoyta out for a dive down the southeast, and I was wholly and solely going for crays and abalone. Like wanted to get my bag, and we swam out at 100 meters or so, and my partner was just obsessed with the bull kelp, like just the big leafy bull kelp growing up off the bottom, and the stuff that you just take for granted when you're out there all the time. When you take somebody new, and it gives you a whole new level of appreciation. Like, oh, actually that is pretty cool, isn't it? Like, I'll just swim past it looking.
Sometimes I'll do the same when I'm out hunting, and then they'll say something. I'm like, oh yeah, I need to just stop, slow down, and then I start pointing out, like you got that invasive mistletoe that grows on a lot of the gum trees, and then I explain that to them, and then bits and pieces, oh, there's a native cherry tree. Oh, look, it's got a bit of fruit on it. And show that type of stuff as well. So
it's very, very rewarding taking people out, and they can often give you back just as much as you're giving them. Just from there.
Well, it just makes you slow down and think about stuff, and then you're taking more stuff in, and often it leads to finding more animals or something you missed because you were gunning for a spot where if you just slowed down and realised.
No, definitely.
So if people enjoyed what they heard today, where can they find you on social medias? Where can they find Golf Skindivers? And
so Golf Skindivers is on Facebook and Instagram. Basically just Google Golf Skindivers, or Facebook, Instagram, Golf Skindivers. You should be able to find it. It's all one word, Golf Skindivers. And I'm not real. I won't share my private socials, but I don't post that much on there anyway. So
that's understandable. So if guys and girls are in South Australia and they want to come down and check out Golf Skindivers, contact you through the page and just watch out for one of your club events.
So that's the best thing you can do is just message the page, and they'll give you some details to become a member. It's pretty cheap to become a member. I think it's only $25 a year at the moment. So
awesome.
It's a pretty cheap membership fee, and you get in touch with a whole bunch of guys and girls and kids that are into diving and spearfishing in
know their stuff.
And learn the right way to do it, and come and mingle, and we have a real good time. So
that's awesome. We had a guy start at my work a couple months ago. He's moved on to another project within the work, but he'd moved over from Vic. He's like, this is before I started chatting to Liam. He's like, oh, where can I go diving, and where can I go spearing? And I'm just like, well, I know you can't do Metro. This was before the announcement, so I'll have to sing out to him and get out. He's just moved down south of the city there, so I think he'll be pretty interested in coming down and checking things out. And I've been speaking to a couple of people lately. They're like, oh, I want to get into spearfishing, or I want to get into this. So awesome. Thank you guys very much for coming on. It was a great idea that you thought to bring Dakoyta down for it. It's something different. Sorry we couldn't get if the audio quality's been a bit funny on this episode, it's because we're running off of one mic and we're just turning it back and forth for Dave and Dakoyta. Just got a bit time poor there to find another one. But yeah, thank you both for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Zach.
I love the passion. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Please find us on social media, Instagram @Hunting Connection Podcast, Facebook @Hunting Connection Podcast, and Twitter @Hunting Connect. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast app you are listening on. Rate, review. Thank you very much for listening.